Is this radio show or just Facebook? Hey, what's up, everyone? Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Robert with the world-renowned Mr. Texas Real Estate. This is the Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Thanks for joining us tonight. I know you had a few best ofs in the last few nights. We've had COVID strike our office, and so we're dealing with a lot of folks. And two key members of our team have gone down. And they're all feeling better now. They're moving on. It's getting better. There were some scary moments there, but we're doing good. My partner Jason got it, and then my other partner Brian got it. And so I think Brian had the lesser of the effects, and Jason had the more severe effects. But I'm sure they're going to come on the air and they're going to talk about it. But yeah, I've been running and gunning for 10 days here. Haven't had a day off yet, but that's okay. And I woke up this morning, and I had this realization. I had this question, this perplexed question, and it was this. I said, A-Rock, I said, when do I have more work to do? When Jason's not here or when Jason is here? Because when my partner's here, we're firing 1,000 ideas an hour, right? But when he's not here, I have to pick up the slack. And I'm like, when am I more busy? And I think I'm busier when Jason is here. I think we are tracking down leads and ideas and deals and investors and opportunities like religiously every single day. So I'm going to get through this week. I got to run down to Corpus. You guys know we love that area. We're going to do some things. And then I think next week you'll see JB back, and we'll be back to it, and I'll have more work to do. So be it. That's what's going on here. But again, everyone's healthy. We're good so far. Looks like we're through the heat of it, the hardest part. And, thanks for all your well wishes and prayers from everyone. I know Jason's put out a few emails, And if you haven't seen them, go ahead and check the emails, and you'll see the stuff going on. But tonight, I want to talk about how not to do things. And again, we'll take it through. We'll take it all the way through. And we've got 4 segments to do. And remember, we talk about over and over and over, there are 5 real ways to make money in real estate investing. 1, and the entry level, and most people heard about and came to this world, is through wholesaling. Whether that's wholesaling a sales contract or lease options or owner finance, it's just, basically you're stepping in the middle of the deal somehow and becoming an arbitrator of the deal. 2, you can flip the house. You buy it distressed, put some love into it, sell it high. Right? Every TV show, every fortune builder bust that comes through town, that's what they're doing. 3, you can buy and hold. That's what we do. And you can also kind of, put the first 3 steps all together, where we can find a wholesale deal, we can fix it up, and then we can hold it. And so there's a refinance portion of that, and you've got to go through that stuff. And there's a 4th way, where you could just straight up be an investor, where you're just writing a check. You could do that through notes and syndications and funds, right? REITs. Just be a straight up investor. You're going to make anywhere between 5 and 7% there. And we'll talk about those too, how much you expect to make. And then there's this 5th way, which if you're doing real estate for this 5th way, then you're doing really well in life. And that is, you're buying real estate for accelerated depreciation to offset a tax burden in some other business that you're doing. Like, doctors are famous to buy commercial real estate properties because they make so much money as a doctor, and usually as a W-2, that they're looking for ways to offset it, and so they'll take the depreciation, or if they're lucky enough to figure it out, the accelerated depreciation. So those are the 5 ways to do it. 1, arbitrage a contract. 2, make something better and sell it, buy low, sell high. 3, buy it, hold it, rent it. 4, stroke a check, invest. And 5, for tax strategy. Those are your 5 real ways to make money. And again, every guru's got a new super secret shiny squirrel program, but those are really the 5 ways you're going to do it. And so, what I wanted to explain to folks is how not to do some of this stuff. So 1, let's just take a real hard look at wholesalers. We're not a really big fan of these guys, but they do serve a purpose in the market, and if you can figure out systems, you'll do well. So, as a wholesaler, what you really have to figure out is 2 things. You have to figure out marketing. You've got to be really good marketing, and sales. You got to be a really good closer. Right? And that was Jason's other business. Him and his partner were very good at marketing and sales. They could close the deals. And really the sales is sort of reverse sales. It's buying low. And so if you're good at those things, you have some life. Now, I have not met very many wholesalers that last more than a decade. I would dare say it's probably less than 1% of 1% of the entire industry who jumped out there and became wholesalers. So it's very, very slim, right? We're talking about one in 1,000 of them will actually make it for a decade and run it as a business. I'd say I've barely met 1 or 2% that have done it more than 3 years, right? So we're talking about maybe 1 person out of 100 being able to actually fulfill and make all their money through wholesaling for more than 3 years. There are a lot of groups that pop up and they've got money behind them and they do the marketing and they've got some things, but the churn over and over and over. And so we recommend you don't do that. I understand that it sounds really attractive, like you don't know any better, so you think you can actually buy properties with no money and this whole process will be, no money out of pocket. That's not quite how it works, guys. And I don't want to go into too much, but I would tell you not to be a wholesaler. If you do want to be in the transaction side of the business, be a real estate agent. Real estate agents have a ton of teaching. There's a better community. There's a tighter group. You've got some good brokers out there that'll help you. And that's a tried and true way for about 90%, maybe 93% of all transactions. Much, much bigger pool to be successful in versus a wholesaler. I would tell you, don't be a wholesaler. If you're going to be in that transaction side of the business, be a real estate agent or be a loan officer, right? Process mortgages. If you're into the churn, there's two best ways in the churn are going to be, again, as a real estate professional or a mortgage professional. If you like to churn the over and over and over, bringing in deals, closing deals, bringing in deals, that's the way to do it. Because I simply have not met many people that survive wholesaling for very long versus meeting lots of agents that have been doing it for decades and mortgage brokers that have been doing it for decades. They survive. Don't do wholesaling, but get into the real estate business if you need a job, if you need the churn. All right, we're going to continue on here with the next few over the next few segments. This is Robert with the world-renowned Mr. Texas Real Estate. This is the Texas Real Estate Radio. We got some good events coming up next weekend. Go check out our website, mrtxre.com. MR is in Mr., TX is in Texas, RE is in real estate.com. That's mrtxre.com. Check out our event page on our website, and you'll be able to see everything that's coming up here at the end of the month. We look forward to catching up to you guys. We'll be back. Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is Robert with the world-renowned Mr. Texas Real Estate. This is the Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Hey, we're talking about how not to do things and a better solution. So, we just covered sort of the basic entry level, and most people who want to get into real estate investing will have gone through some summer wholesaling course or lease option course or owner finance. That's very hard to survive in that business. If you're going to be in the transaction base, and you really want to become a real estate professional, whether it's an EXP agent or you become a loan officer with any number of the hard money lenders or the traditional lenders that we work with on a day-to-day basis, that's a much better solution. So for you, if you're going to get into real estate and you need to do it on transactional, meaning you don't have a lot of cash to do a lot of things, I would highly recommend you become an agent, specifically an EXP agent, or go work for a mortgage company. I mean, those are the two ways that I think you're going to be most successful in this. Okay, let's go on to number 2. That was flipping houses. You've all watched the shows. You've seen the Property Brothers and all this flip or flop and all. You've seen it all on TV. I can tell you that none of that is real. Most of it's fake. I think the closest guys that came to real were Flip or Flop. I think Turk did. Those are real deals. I knew the contractor when I was in California. Those were pretty real. And again, they were brokers. They were real estate brokers and agents. So they made a lot more money on the transaction side than they did on the flip, because the flips were always tight based on the cost of capital. But when you become a flipper, now you're in it. Now you're basically running a construction company, you're running a finance company, and you're running a marketing company. And that may be exciting for people. I know lots and lots of contractors that have been flipping houses for very many years, decades. And, they've gotten to the point where it's like, hey, man, I usually do 4 flips a year, and they're $2 to $3 million properties, and my wife is a real estate agent. In that scenario, that is probably the absolute best way if you want to flip houses. Like someone who already understands concrete and a partner, preferably a spouse, that's a real estate agent. Like in that mix right there, great success. If you don't know anything about construction or project management or real estate and you're just watching these TV shows, don't do it. Don't do it. It's a really hard learning curve that you have to fund. That becomes the issue. You've got to have the money to fund that learning curve. And you're already dropping $35,000, $50,000, $75,000 on these gurus. The bus and the backpack come to town, the lady with the horses telling you to put cookies in the oven, all this nonsense. We just don't recommend it. You've got to have that sort of construction background and you have to have someone who understands real estate. So if you're going to do it, again, my thoughts on the biggest success teams that I've known are someone who's a construction or a construction manager who understands the trades, has access to them, and a spouse or a partner that is going to be in the real estate world, preferably a real estate agent. Because on those two areas, you'll be able to run 20% margins all day long. You'll be very, very successful. You'll start taking the bigger pieces of the pie. And for us in this market, like doing some River Oaks flips and some stuff down San Felipe, or I'm going to be at the beach right on the water, and I'm going to do this flip for $1 million. Like, you'll be really, really successful with that. And if you're in that world and you like flipping houses, that's the key, is to sort of get it. How do I make my dream salary with the least amount of houses possible? Like, I know guys in town that they're boasting that they're closing 11, 12 flips a month, and I'm like, my God, that doesn't make sense to me. You're running around flipping these $150,000, $180,000, $225,000 houses with slim margins. I mean, I understand why you have to do 10 a month. But if you can figure out how to do 4 multi-million-dollar properties a year, and you have a spouse that's in the real estate world, that's a major success. All right, let's move on. Number 3 is buy and hold. Okay? Well, buy and hold is what we do. We are buying and holding. We're buying and holding individually. We're buying and holding in funds, and we buy and hold in syndications. Now, we're disposing of about $18 million worth of properties because it's time to take profit. It's time to reload and do some other bigger things, but that's what we're doing right now while we're still buying. But in that world, being a landlord for us is the most interesting. Now, we've got many, many shows. You can go back and look at our podcast out there about, hey, what level. I just did one like 2 weeks ago about, hey, there's 4 sort of levels of success in that buy and hold world. One is just I got less than 10 doors. It's going to be a supplement to my retirement income. There's a lot of equity there, so I can always refi and pull cash out when I need it. There's a little bit of cash flow coming in from retirement. Maybe I've got some paid off free and clear, so there's an extra $5,000, $7,000 a month, and I'm also have my 401k and my Social Security, and I'm good. I get in my 4-wheel drive Sprinter van. I run the van life for a couple of years. Everything's great. Then there are folks like, hey, I want a little bit more. That's kind of where I am. I want about 50 to 60 doors. I don't want it too big, but I want an office. I want some employees. I want to feel like I have a place to go and a purpose every day and go to those things. And then when I need to jump in my 4-wheel drive Mercedes-Benz Sprinter van, living the van life, I could go ahead and take off down to Boca Chica, camp on the beach, watch some rockets go up in space, come back, and my business is still running. That's sort of number 2, right? Number 3, I want to go big. I want to get big. I want to have over 100 doors. I want to run this. I want to have all these employees. I need a bookkeeper now. I need a handyman, W-2. I need leasing agents. I need someone just to manage the sort of back office of everything. And I got my little team together, and I got 100, 120 doors, and I'm rolling this stuff out. And that is a chore. That becomes a pretty big job where you're going to be integral to the system. But there's success there. And then there's just sort of in that space, hey, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to lend, and we'll talk about that when we come back from the break. But being that buy and hold expert, being that landlord, I know a lot more successful landlords than I do house flippers. And certainly I know more house flippers than I know successful house flippers than I know successful wholesalers. So I know a lot more successful landlords than I do know successful house flippers. Then I know a lot more successful house flippers than I do know wholesalers. And this is why I said in that last segment, don't do the wholesaling. You can be a real estate professional. That's fine. You can make money. You can own property. You can have those things, but do it through a more structured environment. And I know more successful landlords than I know successful flippers, because unless you have a real good background in construction and on the real estate side, it's a really, really hard row to hoe. It's hard. And there's a lot of capital that needs to be infused into that. And then on the landlord side, again, I know people that have got 10 doors and they're enjoying their retirement or their retirement set up and they're not going to buy anymore. I know people with 25 doors and like, hey, I have my own little assistant and she helps me run some stuff. And then I know people with 100 plus doors, 200 doors, 500 doors. And that becomes more of a business. That becomes a second career. So I would say anywhere in the buy and hold world, I would do that. Here's who I wouldn't be in the buy and hold world. This is the don't do it part. Don't be the guy who has limited resources and try and becoming a landlord. Because one bad AC unit is going to bankrupt you, right? Tenants, all that other stuff. Bad tenant and a bad turn. If you don't have capital reserves, it's really, really difficult. So don't be that guy in the buy and hold space that doesn't have the capital reserves to move forward. Okay, hey, this is Robert, again, with the world-renowned Mr. Texas Real Estate. This is the Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Hang tight, guys. We're going to move into segment number 3 when we come back. Hold on, give me a second. I got to make a call. Bye. Ready? Hey, welcome back, everyone. Again, I really, really appreciate you guys hanging out with us at night here. This is Robert with world-renowned Mr. Texas Real Estate. This is the Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Wow, we got a lot of stuff going on. I'm sort of going through the don'ts and the do's in real estate investing. Very high level, very quick review, but this is important for folks. This is the podcast that I will point people back when they're trying to figure things out. So again, 5 ways to sort of be successful as a real estate investor. 1, it's a wholesaler, it's an arbitrator. You're going to be somewhere in the middle of the transaction. And on the real estate investing, the REI side of the world, it's always the wholesaler, lease option, owner finance guy, getting in between the mortgage company and the new tenants. You're always sort of working the deal, right? You're in the middle of it. Number 2, fix and flips, right? We see all the TV shows out there that show you how we take a really horrible-looking house and we add some love, and there's always some sort of drama around minute 14, which goes into the commercial break and gets resolved by minute 22 in the half-hour program. And that works. And then there's buy and hold, which is what Jason and I are doing, and lots of people doing it. I had a conversation with my buddy AC. He's talking about all the properties he's picking up to hold. He's doing great. And then the 4th way is going to be lending. We're about to talk about that. And the 5th way, and if you're really doing it the 5th way, then you're super successful, is you're buying real estate because you need the depreciation to offset the income you're making somewhere else. And in my mind, those are the 5 ways to make money in real estate. Now, there's a lot of something gets rebranded all the time, wrapped up with some different bows, and all of a sudden it's supposed to be the 6th way, the magical new way, but it's really wholesaling arbitrage, or it's really fixing and flipping, or it's really being a landlord, right? Crowdfunding came along. This was the new way to make money in real estate. Well, crowdfunding is really just lending, right? It's really just taking capital sources. So let's go into that. Let's talk about the 4th way that you can make money in real estate and some do's and don'ts. We're talking about putting loans together, putting deals together. We're talking about becoming someone who's just investing. And whether you're, again, brokering some of those investments or running some of those syndications as the sponsor or the person setting it up, the facilitator of the syndication or the facilitator of the fund, or if you're out there with a Series 7 or 6 and you're just raising capital, there's a whole bunch of things that are going on. Now, if you have the capital, this is really, really good, right? This is really, you can really get as close to passive as possible. Like we have a whale, right? We definitely have a whale. We've got sort of like 3 of them in our world that all have massive amounts of capital that have decided to invest multi-millions of dollars with us. And we are so very grateful and thankful that they do and they trust us, and we've not failed them yet, right? But each of those whales all check in with us regularly, maybe every 60 days. Hey, how's the deal going? Hey, how's the rent going? Hey, I saw the video. Hey, it looks good. Hey, I have concerns. Hey, the note's coming up. What do we want to do? Right? So they're still active in their passiveness. But man, if you come out of, your 20 years at Halliburton or Exxon or whatever, 35, 40 years in the oil and gas world, and you're sitting on top of a couple $1 million in your 401k and you've done well and you want to start being a lender on that or just a straight investor, it's not a bad world. But it typically takes 20 to 30 years of success in something else. Now, you can become a financial advisor and go out there and get all your licenses and actually be the guy who brings money to deals and take your 2, 3, 7%, work with angel investors, work with early investors, getting all those deals together. Yeah, there's a world out there. That's called finance, man. And that's super, super, super successful people are there. And there's great longevity in that business. And here's what you don't do. Don't be the guy who says, I can bring money to the deal and you have no license. That world, that fundraising world, that investment world, that banking world is highly regulated. Yet I find people day after day, hey, I see you guys have a syndication. Well, listen, if I can come in and I can help you raise money on the syndication. We're like, well, that doesn't really work that way. Well, here's how we get around it. Let me tell you how we get around it. Anytime someone talks to me and says how they're going to get around something, I walk away. I'm not interested in getting around anything. I'm interested in doing what the law says. Now, do deals go bad? Yeah. Will people lose money in real estate? Absolutely. Is there risk? Yes. Yes. In fact, the SEC basically rates real estate investing as high risk. Because there's so many things that could happen. But you have people that run around and trying to raise money and use the wrong words, use the G word. We never use the G word, can't say the G word. Use the S word, can't use the S word. To try and get people to invest with them, and then they're taking a piece of that. That is illegal. You don't have a license. You're telling people something that is not inherently true about real estate. Real estate is neither safe nor guaranteed. There is risk. So don't be that guy. And I run into them all the time, and some people just don't know better. But some people are just lying to themselves, and other people are just outright swindling. Oh, you've got some money? Great. I know the guy over here in Corpus that needs a loan, so I'm going to put myself in a deal and take 2 points, and I'm going to do it. And you're like, wait a minute, you're not a broker. In fact, you're a convicted felon, dude. Can't do that. Then we're all shocked when the deal goes bad because it was put together wrong. So you have to be really, really careful of the people you're working with. If you're an investor, there's great places like Quest and other areas, certainly Mr. Texas Real Estate in our building, that will work with you and work within the guidelines of the law. But don't be that guy who's like, I can help I'm a matchmaker. I'm going to put people together. Well, unless you have a license, can't do it. It's illegal. It's big time problems. However, if you do want to get into finance, and I recommend everyone get into finance. I know we have this world where we believe that rich people are bad and there's robber barons and these Wall Street guys. Well, trust me, they don't care about that at all. It's usually just something we say to ourselves to alleviate the reality of where we are at in life. Elon Musk is a billionaire. He's not a bad guy. He might be driven, he might be forceful, but he's not swindling people out of money. He's making things that are making him money. And I don't care if you get into finance and you figure out a way to run these big brokerage houses and do investors and run hedge funds. Good for you. My father passed away in the last 2 years, right before COVID. And one of the things he told me, or one of the last times we talked, was he said, go make as much money as you possibly can. He's like, I can tell you that when we had money, things were better. Now, I know a lot of people out there are going to be, well, we have family and love and our faith and all. Yeah, those are all good things. But, man, those three things with money, pretty good. Those three things without money, well, there could be problems. If you can figure out this world of financing and being an investor and working hard at your life and then taking the money from retirement and making 7, 6, 9, 8, 10, 12% on it, that's not bad. Hey, this is Robert. This is the world-renowned Mr. Texas Real Estate. This is the Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Go ahead, check out our webpage, mrtxre.com. MR is in Mr., TX is in Texas, RE is in realestate.com. I'll be back. Hey guys, this is Robert with world-renowned Mr. Texas Real Estate. Thank you all so very much for checking us out. Tonight we're kind of reviewing, we're going to this is to be the podcast or the radio show that we can point people back to. Say, hey, you thinking about getting into real estate, go listen to this. So, let's just talk about the last way, number 5, and then we'll do a review and then sort of returns that you should expect, realistic returns. The 5th way is really cost segregation. Whoop, a little thunder here in the studio. And it's not just cost segregation, it's accelerated depreciation through cost segregation, through credits. And, statistically, not a lot of landlords are taking advantage of it. And this is why people will hold on properties forever, will 1031 it after they've run down their basis. There's a tax scheme out there, which is not a bad word. It's not scam. Scheme is a plan, and multiple plans that have to happen. So there's a tax scheme out there, which retirees and people that are making very successful and making money in other industries look to real estate. I'm not a CPA. I'm not an attorney. You're going to have to look at some professionals. But we do know some folks that do cost segregation, and just give us a shout at 281-401-9008. Text us, cost seg, 281-401-9008, cost seg, and I'll give you the link for you guys to figure some stuff out. Basically, if you're buying more than $1 million in real estate, you should take a look at that and do the cost seg. Now, that's it. The cost seg, the accelerated depreciation is to basically free up tax burdens from other profitable enterprising things that you're doing. That's really what it comes down to. Now, let's review. Let's kind of think about, hey, where's the upper and the bottom level on this stuff? So we said we don't want you really being a wholesaler, but if you want to get into that transactional-based part of real estate, and a lot of people are, then you want to be a professional something or other. And I would prefer you not to be someone who's crawling around on your hands and knees and, house inspecting or appraising or any of that stuff. I want you to be a real estate agent or work in the mortgage world. And I'll just tell you some annual salaries, right? So I think the 80% of real estate agents do one or less deals a year. So you want to be in that top 20%. And when you're in that top 20%, that's the six-figure world. Low six figures, 110, 115 last time I looked. But if you're hustling and you're in that top 20% of real estate, and it's not a lot, you just basically have to do 2 deals and you're automatically in the top 20%. You're in that top 20%, you should be able to move into a 6-figure salary. Mortgage world, even higher upside. $250,000, $200,000, you should be making that. Now, it's going to take time. You have to apprentice. You're going to work with groups. You're going to move around. You're going to move around to a lot of different mortgage companies until you land in that spot where you are just motoring. You're cranking out loan after loan after loan. In those scenarios, those are $150,000, $200,000, $250,000 years. So again, if you want to be a transactional-based person inside real estate, I recommend being a real estate agent or a mortgage lender. You're getting a loan officer or something like that, because you're going to need the same skills As a wholesaler, you're going to need marketing and sales. You're going to need those same skills. I don't know very many wholesalers that make $250,000. I don't. I know one. Actually, I know three. But I don't know any who met me in a room at a RIA club would tell me they're starting in wholesaling. Now, when I sit down with my buddy and I says, hey, I'm going to the mortgage company, I talk to him a year later, how's it going? He's like, I'm crushing it. Made $175,000 last year. Oh, I'm like, great, man. Dinner's on you. So that's a really good world to be. Now, if you're going to fix and flip, you're going to be that sort of person that does the buy and hold. Again, the best scenario is going to be someone who understands construction and project management, and someone who's inside the industry as preferably a real estate agent. So you can really maximize the margin there. And on that, you should be shooting for a 20% margin. Now, the smartest thing to do is to really limit that down to figure out a way to do only 3 to 4 a year. So it's controllable and you're taking vacations. But if you're doing $4 million properties and you're running at a 20% margin, you're talking about $800,000. Even on the low end, maybe 15% margins, you're talking about $600,000 for your little business, which is you, an assistant, and your spouse. Like, that's where you want to be if you're going to fix and flip. But again, you have to know construction and you have to understand how the real estate world works, and preferably as a real estate agent. That's my advice. 3, landlord. Well, everyone can be a landlord. Here's the critical thing about being a landlord. Do not be undercapitalized. You must have reserves. Reserves. You don't have reserves, you're going to get crushed at some point. The market does fluctuate. There are trends in and out. There are government shutdowns, which means Section 8 checks don't come. There's a lot of different issues where you're going to need reserves. We're doing here at Mr. Texas Real Estate, we're selling off about $18 million in properties. We're taking our profit. We're paying our investors. We're going to do a little dance party at the end of the year. And then we're going to have our reserves, and we're going to go out there and buy $30 million worth of more property. But the key is having those reserves. 4, hey, you want to be a lender. You want to be the guy who puts the deals together, the syndicator, the fund manager. You know, I think you really need a finance background. Certainly understanding real estate and all that stuff is important, but having a finance background. I felt very confident going into that world because I have a spouse that has an MBA. And now I have a partner that has an MBA. Right? I think we have that financial basis covered. We understand how that stuff works. We can read through legal docs and make decisions based on what the lawyers are telling us we can and can't do. And so you become a very sort of specialist in that. Now, I don't know what's going on up there. You become a little specialist in that. But you don't want to be as the guy who says, I'm a deal maker, man. I put deals together and I take a piece of the deal. Just pay me, and you got to pay me up front to start to do. I don't do the work for free, man. You got to pay me. Nope. Don't be that guy. Don't work with that guy. Yeah, I put all this stuff. No. That's illegal. Well, I've been doing it for 15 years and no one's ever caught. Well, it's still illegal. Right? Just about everyone who drives in Texas breaks the law. They speed. They change lanes without using directionals. It doesn't make, just because they haven't got a whole bunch of tickets or a license suspended, doesn't mean they're not still doing something illegal. You got to be careful of those people. And then again, if you're in that world where you're needing cost seg, that's good. Oh, let me tell you the income that you should be making running. You really should be going for 7 figures. If you're going to be putting syndications and funds together over 5 to 10 years. Like, you should be doing really, really well. Because it's really, really difficult. It's really, really, really difficult to do it legally. Which is why we see a lot of people taking shortcuts and don't understand the law. I'll tell you that if you want to invest in the Texas Real Estate Appreciation Fund, we are following the law. We've got 3 attorneys working with us. We don't mess around with that stuff. And again, if you're doing cost segregation, then you're going to do very, very well. You're going to buy it for the accelerated depreciation. Use that to offset your income elsewhere. Well, those are the ways of looking at it, and hopefully you enjoyed it and found some of this information useful. I appreciate it. This is Robert with world-renowned Mr. Texas Real Estate. It's the Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Thanks for joining us. We have a little recorded message when you come back from this break. Again, we hope you get into real estate. We just hope you do it the right way. All right. Thanks, guys.